They said they needed space. They acted cold. They made you feel like you were asking for too much. You tried to connect, but the more you leaned in, the more they leaned out. And at some point, you stopped. You stopped texting first. You stopped explaining your worth. You stopped waiting for warmth from someone who only gave you distance. To the outside world, it looked like they won, like they pulled away and never looked back. But here's what really happened. They noticed. Immediately. More than you'll ever know. Because avoidants don't show obsession like the rest of us. They don't beg. They don't chase. They don't say, "I miss you." But they feel it. Deeply. Privately. In ways they can't even explain to themselves. And when you finally pull away, not out of manipulation, but exhaustion, that's when the obsession begins. They may not reach out, but their mind reaches back. They scroll through old messages. They wonder why you haven't posted lately. They check your profile, but never like anything. They replay conversations, not because they cherish them, but because they're trying to find the moment they lost control. You see, avoidants don't obsess over you. They obsess over the version of themselves they could never hold while they were with you. Because with you, they were seen, felt, exposed, and that terrified them. So they did what they always do when intimacy gets too close. They pushed. They withdrew. They created distance before you could. But what they didn't expect was for you to stay gone. Now, your absence is a mirror. And for the first time, they're staring into the reflection of what they ran from. The way you understood them without them asking. The way you stayed patient, even when they got cold. The way you made them feel like they could be loved without performing. They didn't know what to do with that because they've spent most of their life protecting themselves from the very closeness you offered. And now that it's gone, they feel it everywhere. In the silence, in the way no one texts them just to say, "I hope today feels lighter." In the way no one else seems to see them the way you did. Fully, gently, without conditions. They're quiet now. But this isn't indifference. It's rumination. It's longing wrapped in pride. It's grief that doesn't know how to name itself. Because for the avoidant, losing someone isn't about the event. It's about the slow realization that they pushed away the very thing they were starving for. And that realization doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with late nights, staring at ceilings, typing your name into search bars, and deleting it before they hit enter. Let us go deeper and explore the emotional loops, the mind games they replay to keep you close, and why obsession doesn't always look like longing, but control. Obsession, control, and the inner loops they can't escape. They won't tell anyone, not their friends, not even themselves, out loud. But inside, there's a loop they can't break. They check to see if you've watched their story. They wonder who you're with now. They imagine what you're thinking. And worse, they wonder if you're not thinking about them at all. And the most painful part? They'll never admit that they care. Because to say "I miss you" means confronting the part of themselves that knows. They were loved in a way they couldn't handle. So instead of grieving, they play games, not with you directly, but with the memory of you. They rewrite the story in their head, tell themselves you were too emotional, too demanding, too intense, because if they admit you were actually good for them, they'd have to face the guilt of pushing away someone who saw them and stayed. And that guilt, it doesn't sit well with someone who survives by avoiding emotion. So what do they do instead? They try to reclaim control. They think, if I act like I don't care, maybe I'll stop feeling so much. If I pretend they were the problem, maybe I won't have to look at myself. They turn the silence into a strategy. They make your leaving feel like a game, when in truth, it was your boundary. Because deep down, avoidants crave control. Not because they want to dominate you, but because they've never felt safe being vulnerable. To need someone? That's exposure. To care openly? That's risk. To admit they're hurting now that you're gone? That would undo the entire identity they built around being fine alone. So they sit in the wreckage of something that could have healed them. And instead, they manage their feelings the only way they know how. Through detachment, through denial, through obsession that wears a mask of indifference. But let's be clear, they're not indifferent. They're spinning. They watch from a distance. They talk about you vaguely. They keep tabs in quiet ways. Through mutuals, through social media, through the energy of unfinished business. They never intend to complete, because they're still haunted, not just by you, but by what they lost when they pushed you away. And maybe they'll never say it, but here's what they wish you knew. They didn't push you away because you weren't enough. They pushed you away because you were exactly what they always hoped for, and they didn't feel worthy of it. You offered depth. They lived at the surface. You offered openness. They only knew how to hide. You wanted to meet their soul. They were still protecting their wounds. And now you're gone. But not really, because you live in their patterns now, in their hesitation with the next person, in their fear of being seen again, in the way no one else quite compares. The obsession grows, and your silence becomes the loudest thing they hear. They thought they'd feel better when you stopped reaching out. Less pressure, more peace, a return to their emotional normal. But what they didn't expect was the emptiness, not the kind that just feels lonely, but the kind that follows you, the kind that creeps in at night and whispers, "They're really gone." Because when you finally stopped showing up, you left more than silence. You left space. And now, they feel everything they were trying to outrun. It's not just missing your voice. It's missing the safety of being known. It's missing the comfort of being cared for, without having to earn it. It's missing the mirror you held up, the one that showed them a version of themselves they were afraid to believe in. And now, that silence, it echoes. They don't just obsess over the relationship. They obsess over why it still lives inside them. They reread old messages not to reminisce, but to look for clues. Clues that maybe you weren't as important to them as you feel now. Clues that they imagine the connection. Clues that justify the wall they built when they had the chance to let you in. But those clues never come, because no matter how hard they try to rewrite the story, the truth sits there quietly. You were good for them. You were real. And now you're gone, because they pushed away what they actually wanted to keep. And here's where it gets more complicated. You're not even trying anymore. You're not checking up. You're not asking for closure. You're not holding the door open. And that is what haunts them. Because when you stop chasing someone with an avoidant attachment style, you become a different kind of presence in their life. You're not loud. You're not angry. You're just gone. And avoidants don't know what to do with that. They're used to people demanding attention, arguing, begging, trying harder. But you didn't do that. You walked with grace, with silence, with self-respect. And that, more than anything, is what they can't stop thinking about. Because now they know. You weren't the problem. You weren't too much. You were exactly what they were afraid they'd never be ready for. And maybe they are moving on. Maybe they're dating someone new. Maybe they're smiling in pictures and pretending they're fine. But underneath, they're still trying to feel what they only felt with you. That rare, sacred sense of emotional safety they couldn't name at the time, but now feel the absence of every single day. You're healing their silence and the freedom you found without them. Maybe you've wondered if they'll ever come back, if the silence means you're forgotten, or if it means they're trying to forget. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. They didn't leave because you were too much. They left because they were never taught how to stay. Not in love, not in vulnerability, not in the terrifying stillness of being truly seen. They didn't know how to receive the very thing they spent their life secretly craving. And you offered it freely, softly, unconditionally. That's why they obsess. Because what you gave wasn't ordinary. And now that it's gone, nothing else feels quite real. But here's what matters more than their obsession. You're healing. You stopped chasing. You stopped waiting. You stopped thinking. Love means convincing someone to choose you. And in that silence, your silence, you found something they never gave you. Peace. Not because it didn't hurt. Not because you didn't cry, doubt yourself, miss them, relive everything. But because one day, you realized that someone who can only love you at a distance isn't someone who can hold you up close. That's someone who plays games when they're afraid, can't offer stability when you need real intimacy. And that love, real love, doesn't make you beg for clarity. It doesn't punish you for needing closeness. It doesn't run when things get deep. They may be haunted, but you're healing. You've stopped needing their validation to feel like you were enough. You've stopped waiting for the apology they're too afraid to give. You've stopped wondering if they'll return because you finally returned to yourself. And that version of you, the one who chooses peace over confusion, self-respect over emotional scraps, softness without self-abandonment, that version of you is the one they'll never forget. They push you away, but now they obsess not just over losing you. They obsess over how they never really deserved you in the first place. Because your love wasn't fragile. It was just too honest for someone who hadn't yet learned to tell the truth about their own heart. So let them play their games. Let them pretend they've moved on. Let them sit in silence and call it strength. Because while they're haunted by what they lost, you're building something they may never find again. A life where love doesn't feel like a performance, where you don't have to prove your worth just to be met, where peace isn't earned, it's chosen. Drop a comment if this felt like your story. You're not alone, and you're not too much. You're just ready for a love that knows how to stay. Subscribe for more deep dives into attachment, healing, and the emotional truths no one else talks about.